I wake up every morning at 5. The house is quiet at that hour. The estate sits behind tall iron gates, surrounded by trimmed hedges and cameras that follow movement without sound. I enter through the service entrance, sign my name in a thin ledger, and change into my uniform. Gray dress, white apron, hair tied back. For 5 years, this has been my routine. I clean the marble floors before the sun rises high enough to cast light through the tall windows. I dust shelves filled with awards and photographs of men shaking hands. I polish the long conference table upstairs where important decisions are made. I never sit at that table. I make sure it reflects the ceiling lights perfectly. Silence has always protected me. The boss lives in the main residence, but spends most of his time in the office building across the courtyard. I rarely see him closely. When I do, he walks with measured steps, speaking in short sentences that leave no room for questions. He is not loud. He does not need to be. People adjust themselves around him automatically. He has never mistreated me. He has never noticed me either. That balance feels safe. The other staff understand their place. Drivers wait outside with engines running. Security guards speak in codes over small earpieces. Accountants move quickly with folders pressed to their chests. Everyone knows where they stand. I stand near the walls. I listen more than I speak. I learned that early. My mother used to say that quiet people survive longer in powerful houses. She is sick now. Her medication costs more than I earn in a week, but this job pays steadily and on time. Stability matters more than pride. I trust that if I work carefully and remain invisible, nothing will disturb my life. The experts come often. Lawyers, consultants, financial analysts. Their suits are sharp, their voices confident. They debate in technical language that fills rooms with complicated words. When I refill their glasses, they barely pause their conversations. Sometimes they talk as if numbers are more important than people. I do not judge them. It is not my place. I have memorized the rhythm of this building. When the boss is calm, the staff breathe normally. When he is displeased, conversations shorten. I sense moods in the way doors close. For years, the rhythm has been steady. The accounts department works late at the end of each quarter. Security updates systems on Sundays. Deliveries arrive every Tuesday morning. Patterns repeat. Order remains intact. I believed that order meant honesty. I believed that competence meant safety. And I believed that as long as I stayed small, no storm would ever reach me. I did not know that storms often begin in quiet rooms. And I did not know that being invisible only protects you until someone needs someone else to blame. The first change was not loud. It was subtle, like a draft in a closed room. 2 weeks before the crisis meeting, the accounting floor began staying open later than usual. Lights remained on past midnight. I know because I mopped that hallway last. Normally, by 8 in the evening, the doors are locked and the printers silent. Now, the printers hummed constantly. One night, as I emptied trash bins, I noticed shredded documents filling the disposal bags faster than usual. The strips were thin, almost powder-like. That meant they were using the high-security shredder, important papers. No one explained why. They did not need to explain things to me. The senior advisor, Mr. Karim, started walking faster through the corridors. He used to nod politely when passing staff. Now he barely looked up. Once, he startled when he saw me stepping out of the storage room, as if he had forgotten I existed. His phone was always pressed to his ear. "Internal review," I heard him say one evening. Another time, "No, that cannot reach him yet." I pretended not to hear. The boss's schedule changed too. Meetings were added without notice. Security tightened access to certain offices. I was told not to enter the IT room unless accompanied. That had never been a rule before. I followed instructions without question. But something in the air felt heavier. One afternoon, while polishing the glass walls of the smaller conference room, I saw 3 experts arguing quietly. Their expressions were strained. One of them tapped a folder repeatedly against the table. "It does not match," he said. "It has to," another replied. Their voices dropped when they noticed me. Later that evening, I passed by the main office and heard the word leak. It was spoken carefully, as if even the walls should not hear it. Leak. The word stayed with me. Drivers began whispering during smoke breaks. Security guards checked badges twice instead of once. Even the kitchen staff avoided eye contact with the accountants. Tension spreads quietly in places built on control. One night, I entered the executive hallway earlier than usual. The boss's office door was slightly open. I could not see inside, but I heard him speaking. "If this is internal," he said calmly, "I want certainty, not theories." There was no anger in his voice. That worried me more. Certainty means consequences. I told myself it was not my concern. Companies face audits. Systems fail. Experts fix them. Life returns to normal. That is how powerful institutions survive. Still, I began noticing small details I had never paid attention to before. The way Mr. Karim avoided standing near the large monitor in the IT room. The way one accountant deleted emails immediately after reading them. The way conversations stopped mid-sentence when I entered with a tray. It could all mean nothing, or it could mean something simple that no one wanted to say out loud. I continued cleaning. I continued staying quiet. But for the first time in 5 years, the rhythm of the building felt uneven. And when rhythm changes, someone always loses balance. The first real sign came from something ordinary. A stack of printed reports had been left on the long conference table overnight. That never happens. Papers are usually locked away before midnight. Carelessness does not survive long in this building. I was wiping the table when I noticed the top sheet. Rows of numbers, dates, access logs. I do not understand advanced financial systems, but I understand repetition. Cleaning teaches you to see patterns, stains that return in the same corner, dust that gathers along the same edges. These numbers repeated in a way that felt unnatural. The same date appeared 3 times under different headings. The same timestamp was recorded on separate entries that should have been hours apart. I stared longer than I should have. Then I placed the pages back exactly as they were. Later that evening, I returned to the IT corridor to empty the small trash bins beside the server room. The door was slightly open. A security officer stood inside with one of the technical specialists. They were removing a hard drive. "Replace it before morning," the specialist whispered. "Does he know?" the guard asked. "Not yet." I stepped away before they saw me. Hard drives are not replaced quietly unless something is wrong. The next day, one of the external experts arrived early. He seemed irritated. When I refilled his coffee, he snapped. "Careful," he said sharply, even though I had not spilled anything. His eyes scanned the hallway as if someone might be listening. It was not about me, but I felt the edge of his fear. That afternoon, I overheard 2 junior accountants speaking near the copy machine. "They will blame operations," one said. "Or support staff," the other replied quietly. "Someone has to take it." Support staff, people like me. The word stayed in my chest all evening. I replayed the reports in my mind, the repeating timestamps, the replaced hard drive, the nervous glances. It did not feel like an external attack. It felt like something arranged, something adjusted. I began noticing more details. Mr. Karim avoided walking near the IT department now. When discussions turned toward internal access logs, he redirected the topic to cybersecurity consultants. "It is sophisticated," he would say, "beyond internal capabilities." His tone was confident, too confident. I questioned myself constantly. "You are imagining patterns. You do not understand these systems. Stay in your place." But the patterns were not technical. They were behavioral. People who are innocent defend themselves openly. People who are hiding something control the direction of conversation. The building had shifted from tension to preparation. Preparation for what I did not know. But I understood one thing clearly. If blame began moving downward, it would not stop halfway. And I was standing at the bottom. I did not intend to speak, but silence began to feel dangerous. 2 days after I saw the repeated timestamps, I found the junior accountant alone in the records room. He was younger than the others, nervous by nature. He treated me politely, which made him easier to approach. "I may be mistaken," I said quietly, keeping my voice careful. "But I noticed something unusual in yesterday's access report. The same time appears more than once." He looked at me as if I had spoken in the wrong language. "You read the reports?" he asked. "I only saw the top page while cleaning," I replied quickly. "It might be nothing." He forced a small laugh. "It is nothing," he said. "These systems are complex. They generate duplicates sometimes." He did not look convinced. Still, his tone changed slightly. "You should not focus on documents," he added. "It is not part of your responsibilities." I nodded and stepped back. That should have been the end of it. But later that evening, as I passed the break room, I heard voices. "She thinks she understands server logs," someone said. A few men laughed. "Next, she will audit the accounts herself." The laughter was not loud, but it was deliberate. They were speaking about me. My face grew warm, though no one could see it. I kept walking, tray steady in my hands. The next morning, a notice was posted near the service entrance. Staff are reminded not to interfere with executive materials or discussions. The wording was formal, but it was directed at me. No one confronted me directly. No one accused me openly. Instead, the message spread quietly. I had overstepped. Mr. Karim passed me in the hallway that afternoon. He stopped for the first time in weeks. "You look worried," he said calmly. "I am not," I answered. "You should focus on your work," he continued. "People sometimes misunderstand things beyond their expertise." His voice was smooth. It sounded like advice. It felt like a warning. For a moment, doubt crept in. Maybe the timestamps were normal. Maybe I had misread the page. I clean floors. I do not analyze digital systems. I began questioning my memory. Had the numbers truly repeated? Had I imagined the hard drive replacement as suspicious? Gaslighting does not require shouting. It only requires repetition. By evening, I felt smaller than I had in years. The building seemed to press inward. Every conversation that stopped when I entered felt like confirmation that I had done something wrong. But beneath the doubt, one fact remained unchanged. The system logs had repeated the same timestamp. And hard drives are not replaced quietly for no reason. They wanted me to doubt myself. And for a few hours, I did. But doubt fades when patterns repeat. And the patterns were not fading. The crisis meeting was scheduled for Monday morning. 25 experts were invited. I counted their names on the printed list taped near the reception desk. Cybersecurity analysts, financial auditors, risk consultants. The kind of people who speak with certainty and charge for every hour of it. A conference room was prepared the night before. Extra chairs were arranged. 2 large monitors were mounted on the walls. Extension cables ran neatly along the floor. I polished the table until I could see my reflection. When the meeting began, I stood near the wall with a tray of coffee cups. No one noticed me. The experts presented their findings in turns. Charts filled the screens, diagrams of external networks, complex explanations about remote breaches and advanced infiltration methods. "It is sophisticated," one of them said. "Highly coordinated." Another added, "The attackers understood your internal structure." The boss listened without interrupting. His face revealed nothing. As the hours passed, their conclusions began aligning. An external breach, unknown hackers, significant financial exposure. But something was missing. They never once displayed the internal access logs from the executive terminal corridor. I knew those logs existed because I had seen them printed the week before. And I remembered something else. 3 nights ago, while cleaning the IT office under supervision, I had glanced at the main monitoring screen. A list of user access entries had been visible for a brief moment before the technician minimized the window. One name had stood out, not because it was unusual, but because it belonged to someone who never personally accessed the system. Mr. Karim. He was an advisor. Strategic, high level. He did not manage servers, yet his credentials had appeared on the list at nearly the same time as the repeated timestamps on the printed report. I had not understood it fully then. Now, as the experts spoke about external manipulation, I felt the pieces shifting into place. Why replace a hard drive quietly? Why avoid displaying internal executive logs? Why redirect every conversation away from authorized access? I moved carefully around the room, refilling cups. Mr. Karim spoke confidently when it was his turn. "We must assume the breach came from outside," he said. "There is no evidence of internal compromise." His words were firm, but he avoided looking at the screens when the word timestamp appeared. The boss finally asked one question. "Has every internal log been examined?" he said calmly. A brief pause followed. "Yes," one expert answered quickly. Too quickly. I knew that was not true. The specific log I had seen had not been mentioned once. The meeting continued. Technical language filled the air. The experts built a theory strong enough to sound convincing, but it rested on something missing. And sometimes what is missing tells a clearer story than what is present. As I stood near the wall, tray balanced in my hands, I realized something with quiet certainty. They were not failing to see the truth. They were choosing not to look at it. And if the wrong conclusion was accepted today, someone invisible would carry the cost. Perhaps someone like me. By the 3rd hour, the air in the conference room felt thin. Voices that had begun confidently were now repeating the same conclusions with sharper edges. Charts were re-explained. Slides were revisited. The theory of an external breach hardened into something that sounded official. The boss remained silent. That silence carried more weight than any presentation. I noticed how often Mr. Karim interrupted when discussion drifted toward internal access. He redirected with smooth language. "We should focus on perimeter vulnerabilities. The internal structure remains secure." Each redirection was subtle, professional, almost invisible, but it happened every time. At one point, an older analyst cleared his throat. "There was an anomaly in one executive terminal," he began. Mr. Karim spoke over him gently. "That was verified as a duplication error," he said. "The IT team confirmed it." The analyst hesitated. Then he nodded. No one asked to see the confirmation. That was when I understood the scale of it. This was no longer confusion. It was alignment. The boss finally leaned forward. "If this is internal," he said quietly, "contracts will be reviewed, access will be restricted, staff will be questioned." His voice did not rise. It did not need to. A ripple moved across the room. Questioned. Contracts reviewed. I thought of the notice posted near the service entrance. I thought of the whispers about support staff. It would be simple to claim that someone without technical expertise had tampered with physical equipment. Someone who cleaned near servers. Someone who had access without suspicion. Someone invisible. Fear pressed against my ribs. I imagined security reviewing hallway footage. I imagined being asked about rooms I entered every night. I imagined explaining repeated timestamps I did not create but happened to notice. In systems built on hierarchy, blame travels downward first. The experts continued defending their conclusion. The external breach narrative became stronger with each repetition. The absence of internal logs was no longer questioned. Mr. Karim's posture relaxed slightly. He believed the theory was solid now. He believed the room had accepted it. I looked around carefully. The drivers outside did not know their positions might shift if budgets tightened. The junior accountant did not know his department might shrink to absorb losses. The kitchen staff continued preparing lunch as if the day were ordinary. But inside this room, a decision was forming. And once spoken aloud, it would become reality. I realized something then that frightened me more than losing my job. If no one asked the missing question, the truth would disappear permanently. The logs would be archived. Narrative would be printed. The blame would settle quietly on whoever could not defend themselves. My hands felt steady. My mind felt clear. I understood the pattern completely now. And I understood that silence would not protect me this time. I have always believed that silence keeps you safe. But safety is different from survival. As the meeting moved toward its conclusion, I stood near the wall and listened to the experts summarize their findings. Their voices blended together. External breach. Sophisticated actors. No internal compromise. The words felt rehearsed now. I watched the boss's hands resting on the table. He tapped one finger lightly against the wood, not impatient. Thinking, if he accepted their conclusion, the investigation would move outward. Consultants would be hired. Budgets would tighten. Internal reviews would begin quietly, just to confirm there was no inside involvement. And those reviews would not be gentle. I thought of my mother sitting by the window of our small apartment, waiting for me to return every night. She does not ask about my work. She only asks if I am tired. I tell her I am fine. If I lost this job, her medicine would stop within a month. Fear is powerful, but clarity is stronger when it finally arrives. I replayed everything in my mind one last time. The repeated timestamps, the replaced hard drive. The executive terminal log with Mr. Karim's credentials appearing at the exact minute the breach supposedly began. His constant redirection away from internal logs. His interruption when the older analyst mentioned an anomaly. The system was not complex in the way they described. It was simple. Someone with authorized executive access had initiated the breach from inside. The duplication error was not a glitch. It was a manual override that failed to erase the original entry completely. The hard drive replacement was an attempt to limit traceability. And the missing log, the one they never projected, was the only place where that evidence still existed. It was painfully simple. I felt something settle inside me. Not anger, not courage. Acceptance. If I spoke, I could be dismissed instantly. They could accuse me of overstepping again. They could laugh. But if I stayed silent, I would be complicit in my own downfall. The boss looked around the table. "So your final conclusion," he said evenly, "is that this came from outside?" "Yes," several voices answered together. That word echoed in the room. Yes, it was not true. I stepped forward before I could reconsider. The tray in my hands was suddenly heavy. I placed it carefully on the side table. The movement drew a few annoyed glances. My voice, when it came, was quiet. "May I ask one question?" A few men smiled faintly, as if amused. Mr. Karim's expression tightened. The boss looked at me directly. For the first time in 5 years, his attention did not pass through me. "What question?" he asked. The room held its breath. and I chose my words carefully. The room went still. My question hung in the air like smoke. The boss motioned to the IT specialist to project the internal logs onto the large screen. Fingers tapped the keyboard and the screen blinked to life. Rows of access entries scrolled, precise and unforgiving. One name appeared repeatedly at times that coincided exactly with the breach events. Mr. Kareem. No one spoke at first. The experts shifted uncomfortably. Their confident explanations faltered as the evidence became undeniable. The duplication, the replaced hard drive, the diverted conversations all pointed to the same source. The boss leaned back in his chair, still calm, still quiet. Security was called. 2 officers arrived without ceremony, scanning the room with neutral expressions. They spoke only when necessary, their presence formal but not loud. Mr. Kareem was asked to stand aside. No shouting, no dramatic confrontation, just procedure unfolding methodically. The experts avoided eye contact. Their theories dissolved silently under the weight of facts. None had noticed the missing log. None had questioned its absence. The boss looked at me then, not with praise but with acknowledgement, a brief nod. A recognition that I had been watching carefully, understanding more than my position suggested. The internal investigation would continue. Contracts would be reviewed. Staff would face questions, but the exposure was quiet. There were no announcements. No one screamed. No one humiliated themselves theatrically. Consequences were delivered subtly, professionally, efficiently. I returned to my duties as before, cleaning floors, refilling coffee, polishing the table where power and secrecy met. The rhythm of the building had shifted. I could feel it in the way people walked, the way doors closed, the subtle pause in conversations. I had changed the outcome, but no one celebrated. The truth had surfaced, quietly and inexorably, and the power balance in the room had been altered forever. And I remained invisible but no longer irrelevant. The office felt the same the next morning. Sunlight streamed through tall windows. The polished floors reflected the calm. Staff moved with their usual efficiency. The coffee smelled the same. Nothing appeared different, yet everything had changed. Mr. Kareem was gone, not with shouting or scandal, just quietly removed. The experts departed in small groups, their conversations muted, their confidence diminished. The boss returned to his schedule, meetings proceeding as if nothing had occurred. But I could feel his gaze linger on me just a little longer. A recognition, subtle but permanent. I returned to my routine, the mop in my hand, the dusting, the trays of coffee. I moved through corridors the same way, but now with awareness that silence could be a weapon as much as a shield. No one praised me aloud. No one celebrated. There was no speech, no reward, no spotlight, just acknowledgement. And that was enough. The building settled into its rhythm again, but the rhythm carried weight now, heavier and quieter. I had witnessed truth unfold. I had intervened without fanfare. The lesson lingered in the polished surfaces, in the way conversations paused when they shouldn't, and in the silence after the storm. I stayed small. I stayed careful. I stayed invisible, but no longer irrelevant. Truth, I learned, does not always shout. Sometimes it simply waits.